Prince Harry's return to Britain for yet another court appearance has been framed by some commentators as a story about absence rather than purpose. The familiar refrain is rolled out once more, that he is on home soil and not seeing his family. Therefore, the blame must lie with him. But that framing ignores context, history, safety, and the very real reason Harry is there in the first place. He did not return for leisure, nostalgia, or a social visit. He returned because he is standing up in court against powerful media institutions that for decades have operated with impunity, harming not only him, but countless others. Let us be clear from the start. Prince Harry is in the United Kingdom to attend a High Court case involving associated newspapers alongside other claimants, including Sir Elton John. This is not a vanity project. This is not a hobby. This is a legal fight about unlawful information gathering, privacy violations, and accountability. Reducing that to a storyline about why he did not pop in for tea at the palace is not just simplistic, it is intellectually dishonest. Russell Myers suggests that Harry being on home soil without seeing family is a familiar tale. What is also familiar is the media expectation that Harry must contort himself to meet optics that others set for him, regardless of reality. What is familiar is the minimizing of his legal battles while exaggerating the supposed emotional implications of every visit. And what is especially familiar is the absence of empathy for the position Harry has been placed in for years. When Harry comes to Britain, it is not a neutral environment. It is not simply his old neighbourhood. It is a country where he has repeatedly stated that he does not feel safe, where his police protection was removed, and where hostile press coverage escalates the moment he lands. Every movement becomes a headline. Every decision becomes a judgment. The idea that he can casually arrange family visits under those conditions is not grounded in reality. The suggestion that the King, Queen, and the Prince and Princess of Wales scheduling engagements in Scotland conveniently ensures no meeting occurs should raise more questions than it answers. If reconciliation were truly a shared priority, diaries could be adjusted, distances could be bridged, private meetings could be arranged. Yet once again the burden is placed solely on Harry, as though reconciliation is a one-sided obligation. Harry has spoken openly about wanting healing and reconciliation. He has also been clear that it cannot happen without accountability, honesty, and safety. Those are not unreasonable conditions. In any family, let alone one as complex and public as this, reconciliation requires effort from all parties. It cannot be reduced to a demand that one person simply stop talking, stop acting, stop defending themselves, and accept whatever treatment they are given. Mr. Myers concludes that if Harry wants to reconnect, he must drop the litigation and repair the damage from leaving the firm. That statement reveals a great deal about how some still view this situation. It frames Harry's pursuit of justice as an obstacle rather than a principle. It suggests that standing up to wrongdoing is incompatible with family connection. And it implies that leaving an institution that he felt was harmful to his wife and himself is damage that only he is responsible for repairing. Let us pause on that point. Harry did not leave the institution on a whim. He left after years of documented press harassment, racialized attacks on his wife, invasions of privacy, and a lack of protection or support from within the system. Meghan was vilified daily. Lies were printed and repeated. Dangerous narratives were allowed to fester. The toll on their mental health was real and serious. To suggest that the damage lies in their decision to leave rather than in the environment that drove them away is a profound inversion of responsibility. The litigation Harry is involved in is directly connected to that environment. These cases are about exposing how certain sections of the press operated. Phone hacking, blagging, and other unlawful methods are not abstract concepts. They have real victims. They have real consequences. Harry is not fighting just for himself. He is part of a broader effort to challenge a culture that has long been protected by silence and fear. Dropping litigation would not magically heal family relationships. What it would do is send a message that accountability is optional, that power goes unchecked, and that speaking out carries penalties. Harry has chosen a different path, one that prioritizes truth over comfort, one that prioritizes long-term change over short-term approval. It is also worth examining why the media obsession with whether Harry sees his family during court visits persists. It serves a narrative. It creates a moral judgment. It positions Harry as cold or indifferent while absolving others of agency. Rarely do we see equal scrutiny of whether the family has made efforts to see him. Rarely do we see questions about whether they have reached out privately, offered assurances of safety, or demonstrated understanding of his position. The reality is that relationships break down for reasons. They do not fracture in a vacuum. Harry has described feeling unsupported, unheard, and sidelined for years. Meghan has spoken about being isolated and struggling. These experiences did not disappear the moment they moved away. Trust, once broken, is not easily restored, especially when the same patterns continue. When Harry comes to court, his focus is necessarily narrow. Court cases are intense. They require preparation, meetings with legal teams, security coordination, and emotional resilience. Adding high-pressure family interactions under intense media scrutiny is not a simple add-on. It is a potential flashpoint that could be exploited, misrepresented, or weaponized. Yet, instead of acknowledging this, commentators frame it as a failure of will, as though Harry simply does not care enough. That framing is unfair and inaccurate. Caring does not always look like proximity. Sometimes it looks like boundaries. Sometimes it looks like saying not now, not like this, not under these conditions. The idea that reconciliation is not rocket science is a soundbite, not an argument. Real reconciliation is complex. It involves addressing past harm. It involves listening without defensiveness. It involves changes in behavior. It involves mutual respect. None of that can happen if one side is expected to abandon legitimate grievances just to make others comfortable. Meghan and Harry have built a life focused on purpose, service, and protection of their family. Their work through charitable initiatives, mental health advocacy, and community support speaks to their values. They are raising their children away from relentless intrusion. They are choosing to define success on their own terms. That does not make them disloyal. It makes them intentional. Prince Harry's legal battles are often portrayed as obsessions or vendettas. In reality, they are consistent with his lifelong opposition to media excesses, shaped by the loss of his mother and years of being targeted himself. He has seen firsthand what happens when false stories are printed without consequence. He knows the human cost. Walking away from that fight would not bring peace. It would betray his own principles. It is also telling that when Harry speaks about reconciliation, it is often interpreted as weakness or contradiction. Wanting healing does not mean accepting injustice. Wanting family connection does not mean surrendering self-respect. These are not mutually exclusive desires, they are human ones. The scheduling of senior royal engagements far from London during Harry's visit sends its own message. Whether intentional or not, it underscores the distance that already exists. Yet even that is framed as Harry's responsibility. The double standard is striking. What if we considered a different perspective? What if Harry's presence in court is itself an act of integrity? What if his refusal to play along with performative family optics is a sign of growth? What if his boundaries are not barriers, but protections? The Sussex story has always challenged traditional expectations. They have refused to suffer in silence. They have refused to accept narratives imposed on them. They have chosen transparency where secrecy once reigned. That makes some uncomfortable. It disrupts old power structures. It invites backlash. But it also opens space for change. Prince Harry does not owe the public a family reunion on demand. He does not owe commentators access to his private relationships. He does not owe anyone the abandonment of his legal rights. What he does owe to himself and to his children is consistency with his values. When the dust settles on these court cases, the significance will extend beyond one man. It will shape how the press operates. It will influence future protections. It will validate the experiences of those who have been harmed. That is worth the discomfort of being misunderstood. The narrative that Harry must choose between justice and family is a false one. The truth is more nuanced. Family relationships are shaped by many forces, including trust, respect, and safety. Legal action does not erase the possibility of reconciliation. Avoiding accountability does. So when we hear claims that reconciliation will go unanswered while Harry remains engaged in these matters, we should ask why reconciliation is conditional on his silence. We should ask who benefits from that framing, and we should ask whether true healing can ever be built on denial. Prince Harry returned to Britain not as a prodigal son seeking approval, but as a man standing firm in his convictions. That deserves respect, not ridicule. It deserves understanding, not distortion. And it deserves recognition that sometimes doing the right thing is lonely, difficult, and deeply misunderstood. History has a way of catching up with truth. Years from now, these legal battles may be seen very differently. They may be recognized as necessary, even brave, and the simplistic narratives of today may fade under the weight of fuller understanding. Until then, Harry will continue to walk his path, focused, purpose-driven, grounded in the lessons of his past and the responsibilities of his future. And no amount of commentary about who he did or did not see on a particular visit will change the substance of that journey.